I was arranging fresh lilies in a vase when my husband's message appeared on my phone. The sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, casting warm gold across the countertop, and for a moment everything felt peaceful, almost picture perfect. We'd been married for almost 4 years. Our life wasn't fireworks, but it was stable, quiet, predictable. Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. The message lit up the screen. Running late again. Don't wait up for dinner. Ethan. I stared at it longer than necessary. His late nights had become so frequent they no longer surprised me. Yet something about today, maybe the way the lilies trembled slightly in my hand, made the message feel heavier than usual. Work again? I muttered under my breath, trying to dismiss the sinking feeling pressing against my ribs. I set the flowers down and inhaled deeply. Ethan used to come home excited, telling me everything about his day, the cases he won, the clients he secured, even the petty office drama. Lately, though, he barely spoke. He was always tired, always busy, always overwhelmed. And I, always the understanding wife, accepted it without question. That night, I cooked his favorite pasta anyway. Habit is a quiet prison. You stop noticing the bars after a while. But 12 o'clock came and went. The pasta cooled. My stomach tightened. At 1:16 a.m., the front door finally clicked open. I pretended to be asleep but watched through half-closed eyes as Ethan tiptoed inside. His shirt was wrinkled, the first 3 buttons undone, his tie stuffed inside his pocket. It wasn't the appearance that bothered me most. It was the smell. Not perfume. Baby powder. A faint trace, but unmistakable. I held my breath until he disappeared into the bathroom. When the shower turned on, my heartbeat thundered in my ears. Something inside me, an instinct I didn't want to acknowledge, whispered that this wasn't normal. The next morning, he acted as if everything were fine. He hugged me from behind while I poured coffee, his lips brushing my hair. "You're up early," he murmured. "I couldn't sleep," I replied. He stiffened, just a fraction. "Long night at the office, you know how it is." I nodded mechanically. I didn't want to question him, not because I trusted him blindly, but because I was afraid of the answer. By noon I was at work, still replaying every detail of the previous night. My coworker Lisa eyed me curiously. "You look pale," she said. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired." Lisa leaned closer. "Your husband still working those late nights?" I tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "Always." She hesitated, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I saw him last week. Downtown." I blinked. "Downtown?" "Yeah, Saturday afternoon. He was arguing with someone, a woman. I didn't want to assume anything, so I didn't tell you." My blood turned cold. Saturday. He told me he was visiting his mother. "What did she look like?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "She had a stroller," Lisa said softly. "And he looked stressed." A stroller. Baby powder. The room swayed for a moment. "Probably just a client," I said with rehearsed calm, but both of us knew I didn't believe it. When I got home that evening, Ethan was already there, which was unusual enough to feel alarming. He sat on the couch looking restless, his foot tapping. "Hey," he said, his tone oddly cautious. "Hi." He opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it again. For a second, he looked almost guilty. Instead, he stood and pulled on his jacket. "I have a meeting across town. It might run late." Another late night. Another lie. I watched him leave, the door closing like a final punctuation mark. Only then did I allow my body to collapse onto the couch. My eyes burned, but no tears came. Only a quiet numbness. I don't know what compelled me to check his jacket pocket. Maybe desperation, maybe intuition, maybe the lingering scent of baby powder haunting my thoughts. Inside, I found a receipt, a baby boutique. Date, 2 days ago. Total, $719. Items purchased, formula, diapers, baby clothes. My hands shook so violently, I had to sit down before I dropped the paper. My heart pounded in my throat. A cold shiver rushed through me. There was no explanation for this. None. I wasn't pregnant. We hadn't talked about children in years. And Ethan never bought gifts for anyone. He hated shopping. So who was he buying baby items for? A crack formed, deep, jagged, undeniable. That night, after pacing the kitchen for what felt like hours, I called the only person I could trust, my older sister, Mia. When she answered, her voice was warm and steady. "Hey, what's wrong?" "I think something's going on with Ethan," I whispered. She didn't ask what. She simply said, "Tell me everything." So I told her. The late nights, the smell of baby powder, the receipt. Silence followed, heavy, suffocating. "A baby receipt?" she repeated finally. "Yes." "A stroller? A woman?" she added. "Yes." Mia's tone changed, softer but sharper. "Sweetheart, I think you need to prepare yourself. Something's not right." I gripped the phone, knuckles white. "I know, I don't want to believe it. No one ever does," she said gently. "But start paying attention. Look for patterns. Look for money transfers. Look for anything." Her words hit me because deep down, part of me had already known the truth. I just needed someone to confirm it without saying it out loud. "Promise me one thing," Mia said. "If you find something, you won't confront him alone. You'll call me first." "I promise." But promises are easy when you don't yet know how the story ends. Around midnight, Ethan texted again. "Staying out. Don't wait for me." No apology, no explanation, no warmth. My pulse steadied with a strange clarity. This wasn't distance. This wasn't work. This wasn't exhaustion. This was someone else. And I was finally brave enough to admit it. I walked to the bedroom, opened his drawer, and stared at the neatly organized files he kept locked away. His private documents, his work papers. But now, I wasn't sure. Something inside me shifted. This was the moment the illusion cracked. My hands trembled as I reached for the drawer. Chapter 1 ends here, on the edge of discovery, on the edge of the truth I had been terrified to see. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next morning, Ethan left unusually early. I heard the front door close before the sun had even fully risen, long before the soft morning light had time to stretch through the blinds. It was a Saturday. He never left the house before 9 on Saturdays. He cherished his slow mornings, coffee, newspapers, warm showers, all of it. But today, he practically ran. A chill curled down my spine. When the house finally settled into silence, I walked into the bedroom with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Last night's promise to Mia echoed in my mind, but something deeper drove me. The need to know the truth, no matter what it cost. I kneeled in front of Ethan's locked drawer again, his safe space, his secrets. The drawer had always been off limits, protected by a small chrome lock he claimed held client documents. I'd always respected it, but respect without trust is foolish, and I refused to be foolish anymore. Ethan kept the key in his jacket pocket. Not the jacket he wore to work, that would be too obvious, but the navy blazer he only used on special occasions. My hands trembled as I reached for the closet. His scent, cedarwood and mint, drifted from the sleeves. I slipped my hand into the inner pocket. The key was there, cold, small, much heavier than it had any right to be. I held it for a moment, my heart pounding with guilt, fear, and something else, something stronger, determination. I returned to the drawer, inhaled deeply, and unlocked it. The click felt like thunder. Inside were files, envelopes, and neatly stacked folders with dates stretching back almost 2 years. I swallowed hard, pulling the first one out, a bank statement. Not from our joint account, not from his business account, a third account, one I never knew existed. My pulse quickened as I scanned the transactions. Transfers. Weekly, consistent, and large. Amounts that made my stomach drop. $800, $900, $1,200, $750. Every week, for months, all to the same recipient. S. Morrison. My chest tightened. I didn't know the name, but something about the pattern, the frequency, the secrecy, made my head spin. I reached for another folder. Inside were medical receipts, pediatric clinic visits, prescription bills, immunization schedules. It felt like my vision blurred. A child. Someone's child. A child Ethan was paying for. I pressed my hand to my mouth, fighting the dizzying wave of nausea. My knees felt weak, but I forced myself to look at the next document. A lease agreement. For an apartment across town. Signed under a different address than ours. I scanned the pages until my eyes caught the signature at the bottom. Ethan Miller. No hiding. No attempt to mask it. My husband had signed a lease on a separate apartment. 2 years ago. 2 years. My breath hitched. That meant this wasn't recent. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This wasn't accidental. This was a second life, a second home, a second family. And I had been the fool who never questioned, never pried, never wondered why the man who slept beside me every night was slowly drifting out of reach. Tears blurred my vision, hot and relentless, but I blinked them away. I needed to stay focused. There was more. At the bottom of the drawer, beneath layers of paperwork, I found an envelope thick with photos. My heart thudded painfully as I opened it. Inside were dozens of pictures. Ethan, smiling, holding a baby. A little boy with soft curls and wide hazel eyes that mirrored Ethan's so closely, my chest caved in. Picture after picture, the baby growing older, Ethan feeding him, carrying him on his shoulders, sitting on the floor surrounded by toys. These weren't stolen moments. These were memories, family memories. My vision tunneled. The floor felt unsteady beneath me. I dropped the photos, letting them scatter across the carpet like broken pieces of a truth I was never meant to see. I gripped the edge of the dresser until my knuckles turned white, breathing raggedly, trying not to crumble. He had a child, not with me, not ours, his, with another woman, and he had kept them, supported them, loved them, while feeding me excuses about exhaustion and long work nights. My heart cracked under the weight of betrayal. The sound of my phone vibrating snapped me back to reality. I wiped my eyes roughly and grabbed it. It was a message from Mia. "Are you home? I'm coming over." I hesitated, typing back, "Don't, it's too much." She responded instantly, "I think you need me." My throat tightened. I sank onto the edge of the bed. Okay. Within 30 minutes, Mia walked into the house without knocking. She found me sitting on the bedroom floor, surrounded by photos and documents that spelled out the death of my marriage. "Oh my God," she whispered, kneeling beside me. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Mia picked up one of the baby photos, her face twisting with both pity and rage. "He has a child?" she whispered. "A real child." I nodded, swallowing back a sob. She placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry." I let out a shaky breath. Why? Why would he do this? Why didn't he just leave me? "Because men like Ethan want everything," she said bitterly. "They want the loyal wife at home, and the secret life on the side. They want control. They want options." Her words stung because they were true. Then she added, "But he made one mistake." I lifted my gaze, confused. "He left documents," she said. "Proof. Evidence." I blinked away tears. "And what does that change?" "It changes everything," she said firmly. "Because if he's supporting a second family with marital funds," she paused, "he's committed financial infidelity, and possibly fraud." A cold whisper slid through me. Fraud. The word echoed. Mia squeezed my hand. "We need to be smart. We need to gather everything." "Everything?" "Absolutely everything," she said. "Receipts, photos, transfers, files. He hid a life from you. That means he's hiding more than just a woman and a child." Her voice steadied me. "I know you want to scream. I know you want answers, but you can't confront him, not yet." I exhaled shakily. "What do I do?" "You build your case," she said. "You watch him. You don't tip him off. And you prepare." "For what?" I whispered. She looked around the room, at the photos, the documents, the life I never knew existed. "For the truth," Mia said, "and the war that comes after." I closed my eyes. The perfect life I thought I had was gone. shattered. But in the ruins, something new flickered inside me. Resolve. I would find out everything, every lie, every secret, every betrayal. If Ethan had built a second family, then he had also built his own destruction, and I would be the one to bring it down. For the next 3 days, I moved like a ghost through my own home, silent, calculating, watching Ethan through new eyes. Every word he spoke felt rehearsed, every gesture performed. Once I would have believed him without hesitation. Now I dissected every breath he took, and every breath proved the same thing. He was lying. Constantly, effortlessly. Mia had insisted I keep collecting evidence, and I did, quietly, methodically, like someone preparing for a storm they knew would collapse the entire house. But nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to discover. It was Wednesday afternoon when I found the final confirmation I never wanted. Ethan had left his laptop on the kitchen table, the first time in months he'd been careless enough to do so. Normally, he guarded that thing like a treasure chest full of gold. Now I knew why. I stared at it from across the room, my heart thudding against my ribs. The screen was black, but the device was still on. Maybe he had rushed out too quickly. Maybe he trusted me too much. Or maybe he simply didn't realize I had stopped being naive. I approached the laptop slowly, my palms sweating. I pressed a key. The screen blinked awake. He hadn't logged out. A folder sat open in the corner, as if waiting for me. Documents, Morrison. My blood froze. Morrison. The same last name from the bank transfers. The same woman receiving weekly payments. I swallowed hard and clicked the folder. Dozens of files filled the screen, labeled with dates, invoices, school forms, agreements. My hand trembled as I opened the first one. A birth certificate. My breath caught. Child's name, Noah James Morrison. Father, Ethan Miller. The weight of the truth slammed into me so hard it felt like the air was punched from my lungs. This wasn't a suspicion. This wasn't a possibility. It was real. Ethan was legally registered as the father of a child I had never known existed. A child who was born almost 3 years ago. 3 years. During our marriage. While we were supposedly trying to rebuild intimacy. My hands shook as I scrolled through more documents. Pediatric consent forms, insurance papers, daycare registrations, all signed by Ethan. The next file was a set of text messages. Between Ethan and the woman, Sophie Morrison. I clicked on one conversation. Sophie. Noah keeps asking why you're not staying tonight. Ethan. I told you, Soph. I can't disappear from home too often. She'll get suspicious. Sophie. He's your son, Ethan. You can't treat him like a secret. Ethan. I'm doing my best. Just give me time. Something inside me shattered. Not cracked. Shattered. The next message came 2 weeks later. Sophie. You promised you'd be here for his birthday. Ethan. I'll come after dinner. She thinks I'm meeting a client. Sophie. This is exhausting. Ethan. It won't be forever. Trust me. I clenched my jaw so tightly it hurt. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry again. I had spilled enough tears for a man who didn't deserve a drop of them. I clicked on the next set of messages. These were recent. Sophie. We need more money this month. Noah's new daycare is expensive. Ethan. I'm transferring extra today. Sophie. Thank you. When can you come over? Ethan. Tonight. Tonight. I stared at the timestamp. 7:12 a.m. He had sent it just hours earlier. Before work, while pouring coffee, while kissing me on the cheek as if nothing was wrong. My stomach churned. I scrolled further. There was a video. My fingers hesitated before clicking it. The footage opened to a bright living room. Toys scattered across the floor, sunlight streaming through sheer curtains. Sophie held the phone, laughing softly. Noah, come here, she said. A little boy, the same boy from the photos, ran into frame giggling. He looked maybe 2.5, tiny, innocent, full of life. Then someone entered from the left side of the screen. Ethan. He swooped the child into his arms, spinning him around as Noah squealed with delight. Daddy! The boy laughed. The words stabbed me straight through the heart. Ethan smiled, a smile I hadn't seen in years. Bright, genuine, effortless. The kind of smile he never gave me anymore. The kind he had reserved for them. My vision blurred, tears finally spilling over as the video continued playing, but I couldn't watch another second. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands flying to my mouth to quiet the sobs breaking from my chest. I felt sick, I felt betrayed, I felt destroyed. But beneath all that, something else flickered. Rage. Deep, blistering, righteous rage. I didn't know how long I sat on the kitchen floor, knees pulled to my chest, breathing in ragged gasps. When my phone vibrated, I nearly dropped it. It was Mia. "You okay? Haven't heard from you." My fingers shook as I typed. "He has a child, and he's in videos with him. Mia, he's raising him." She called immediately. I pressed the phone to my ear, unable to speak as tears streamed down my face. "Oh, God," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I inhaled shakily. He has a whole other life. A real life. A child. He lied to me every single day. "Yes," Mia said softly. "He did. But now you know the truth." Her voice steadied. "And now you have exactly what you need." I looked at the closed laptop. Everything inside it, every document, every message, every video was evidence. Proof. Undeniable. "Mia," I whispered, "how could he do this to me?" "Because he thought you'd never find out," she said coldly. "Because he thinks you're harmless. Because he thinks you won't fight back." I wiped my cheeks with the back of my hand, feeling something shift inside me. "But you will," Mia continued. "You have to." "What do I do now?" I whispered. "You go to a lawyer," she said. "Today." My breath stilled. A lawyer. The word felt heavy, terrifying, final, but necessary. Mia continued. "You need legal protection before he moves money, hides assets, or tries to manipulate the situation. If he supported a child with marital funds, he's committed more than betrayal. He's committed financial abuse." I swallowed hard. "I'm scared." "I know," she said gently. "But you're not alone, and you're stronger than you think." I closed my eyes. The perfect life was dead. The truth was exposed. The war had officially begun. I stood, grabbed the laptop, and walked toward the bedroom to gather the rest of the documents. My hands still trembled, but my heart no longer wavered. It was time to fight. The law office smelled faintly of old books and polished wood. A tall clock ticked steadily in the corner, each second echoing through my chest like a warning. I sat across from the attorney Mia had recommended, a sharp-eyed woman named Caroline Rhodes, who looked like she'd been fighting legal battles since before I'd learned to tie my shoes. She studied me quietly for a moment, her gaze steady, assessing. "You said your husband has been financially supporting a second family," Caroline said, folding her hands, "and that you have evidence?" I nodded, sliding the folder across the desk with trembling fingers. "Everything is in there. Bank transfers, medical bills, a lease he signed, messages, even videos." Caroline opened the folder and began flipping through the documents. With each page, her eyebrows lifted a little higher. When she reached the birth certificate, she exhaled sharply. "Well," she murmured, "this is worse than I expected." My stomach tightened. "Worse how?" She looked up, her voice firm. "This isn't just infidelity. This is financial deception on a significant scale. If these funds came from marital assets, you have a strong case for dissipation of marital property." "I don't understand," I whispered. "It means," Caroline said, "that he illegally spent shared money on a hidden relationship. The court will not look kindly on that. It could cost him heavily in the divorce." Divorce. The word hit me like a punch. It sounded so final, so irreversible, so real. I forced myself to breathe. Caroline continued flipping until she reached the text messages. Something in her expression sharpened. "And this," she added, tapping the screen of my phone, "could help prove intent." "Intent?" "That he knowingly hid this," she explained. "That he understood his actions were wrong. That he planned it." I swallowed hard, nausea twisting in my chest. Hearing everything repeated back to me in cold legal terms made the betrayal feel even bigger, more monstrous. Caroline leaned back in her chair. "Let me ask, do you believe he might try to move money or hide assets if he fears you know?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. He's been panicking lately. I can sense it. Then we need to act quickly. Her tone grew urgent. Before he gets any bright ideas, we should file for temporary financial restraining orders. Restraining orders? On the finances? Yes, she said. It prevents him from liquidating accounts, selling property, transferring funds, or hiding assets. If he tries anything after the order is in place, the court can sanction him. The idea sent a strange thrill through me, part relief, part fear. Will he know I've filed? I asked. Caroline nodded. He'll be served, but by the time he receives the notice, everything will already be frozen. I exhaled shakily. Do it. Caroline's expression softened, as if she finally saw the determination beneath my fear. Good, she said. You're making the right choice. She wasn't done. You should also gather digital backups of everything. Cloud storage, encrypted if possible, just in case he tries to delete anything. A chill ran along my spine. He could do that? Husbands in panic mode do desperate things, Caroline said. I've seen it all. I looked down at my trembling hands. Desperate things. Ethan was already unraveling. I knew it. I felt it. What about the second family? I asked quietly. Will the court involve them? Caroline tapped her pen against the desk thoughtfully. Only if necessary, but given the financial trail, the court may subpoena the woman for testimony. A part of me recoiled at the idea of facing her. The other part, the part fueled by righteous fury, didn't care anymore. Caroline closed the folder with a decisive motion. I'll send you a list of everything else I need. Bank statements, tax returns, mortgage records, any suspicious withdrawals. My mind raced. He keeps some files in a locked drawer. I found most of the documents there. Caroline smiled faintly. Then I suggest you carefully, discreetly, make full copies. I already have most, I murmured, but I can get the rest. Good. She stood, extending her hand. When we file, things will happen quickly. Be ready. I shook her hand, my grip weak but resolute. When will you file? I asked. By tomorrow morning, she replied. Tonight he won't expect a thing. That thought gave me a dark, almost satisfying comfort. I walked out of the law office feeling both heavier and lighter. Heavier with the knowledge of what was coming. Lighter knowing I finally had someone in my corner. Mia was waiting outside, leaning against her car. She straightened when she saw my face. Well? She asked. We're filing everything tomorrow. I exhaled. She's freezing the accounts, everything. He won't be able to hide anything. For the first time in days, Mia smiled. That's my girl. But the relief didn't last. When I got home, Ethan's car was already in the driveway. My heart seized. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. Not until late. Not tonight. Tonight he was supposed to be with them. I stepped into the house cautiously. It was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan, I called. No answer. I walked into the living room and froze. The drawer I had opened, the one where he kept all his hidden documents, was wide open. Empty. All the files were gone. A cold shock ran through me. He knew. He knew someone had been in there. Or worse, he knew it was me. Before I could steady my breathing, footsteps approached. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his face shadowed, his eyes burning with a mixture I couldn't decipher. Anger, fear, desperation. What were you doing in my drawer? He asked, voice low and dangerous. My throat tightened. I was looking for something. Don't lie to me. His voice cracked like ice. Did you go through my things? I felt my pulse hammering in my neck. He stepped closer, his posture rigid. That drawer was locked, he continued. How did you open it? I forced my voice to stay calm. I had a right to know what you were hiding. His expression twisted. You had no right to invade my privacy. No right, I whispered, a bitter laugh escaping me. You've been living two lives, Ethan. He flinched, a small involuntary reaction that gave him away instantly. So he knew exactly what I had found. His jaw clenched. You don't understand. I understand enough, I cut in, my voice trembling with fury. I know about the child. I know about the apartment, the money, everything. Silence. Thick, suffocating, explosive. Ethan's face went pale, then red, then blank. You shouldn't have seen that, he said finally. The sheer audacity of the sentence sent a tremor of rage through me. I shouldn't have. Ethan, you lied to me for years. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a trapped animal. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. What way? I demanded. He stopped, and for just a moment, something cruel flickered in his eyes. You were never supposed to find out. My blood went cold. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't regret. This was panic, control slipping from his hands. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't panicking because I was hurt. He was panicking because he was losing power. You don't know what you've done, he hissed. You don't know what this will cost. Oh, I do, I said quietly. It's going to cost you everything. He blinked, as if the certainty in my voice unnerved him. Then, without another word, he stormed past me, grabbed his keys, and slammed the door. I stood frozen in place long after the sound of his car faded. He knew. He was panicking, and desperate men make dangerous decisions. The war had begun, and I needed to move faster. Tomorrow, the legal freeze would lock his finances. But tonight, he still had time to destroy evidence. Or worse. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands. Mia, I whispered when she answered. He knows, and he's not going to stop. Her voice sharpened instantly. Lock your doors. Don't be alone tonight. I'm coming. Because now, this was more than betrayal. This was a fight for survival. The night felt different after Ethan slammed the door. Not quiet, charged, like the air before a storm. I paced the living room, unable to sit. Shadows stretched across the walls as I turned lights on and off, my nerves too tight to trust the silence. Somewhere deep down, I knew. Ethan wasn't just angry. He was afraid. And fear made him unpredictable. When Mia arrived, she didn't even knock. She let herself in with the spare key I'd given her years ago. Her eyes swept the room instantly, analyzing everything. He knows, she said, not as a question but an understanding. He knows, I whispered, and he took everything from the drawer. Mia cursed under her breath. He's going to try to clean up, delete records, move money, hide anything that ties him to the second family. I nodded, sinking onto the couch, my hands trembling. Caroline is filing in the morning, but that gives him hours, enough time to do damage. He'll definitely try something, Mia said, pacing. We need to stay awake, and you are not leaving this house alone. Her certainty steadied me, but anxiety still coiled in my stomach like a living thing. Hours passed slowly. Every car that passed outside made me jump. Mia made tea, but I couldn't swallow more than a sip. She talked to keep me grounded, but my mind drifted to the one question that haunted me. What will Ethan do next? At 11:48 p.m., the answer came. My phone lit up. Ethan, 4 missed calls. 1 new message. I didn't want to open it. My thumb hovered over the screen, frozen with dread, but Mia nudged me. Read it. I swallowed hard and opened the message. We need to talk now. Where are you? My throat tightened. He's looking for you, Mia whispered. He's already on the move. I didn't reply. A minute later, another message. Don't ignore me. This is serious. Then, you're making a mistake you'll regret. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. He knows you're going to a lawyer, Mia said quietly. He's losing control. He sounded angry, I whispered. Let him be angry, she snapped. He lied, cheated, stole from you. He has no right to demand anything. My phone buzzed again, a voicemail this time. For a full minute, I couldn't bring myself to play it. Finally, Mia took the phone gently and hit the button. Ethan's voice filled the room, shaky, low, strained. I don't know what you think you found, but you're overreacting. We can handle this privately. No need for drastic measures. Call me back. Something in his tone made my skin crawl, a blend of pleading and simmering anger. He's not just scared, Mia murmured. He's cornered. I pressed my palms into my face. I don't know how he's going to react when he gets served tomorrow. You won't be alone, Mia reminded me. And once the freeze hits, he can't touch your assets. I tried to breathe, tried to calm the shaking in my hands. But then the next message appeared, harsher than the last. If you take this to court, you'll ruin everything. Think about what you're doing. I flinched. The underlying threat was no longer subtle. Block him, Mia said. I can't, I whispered. Not yet. I need to see what he's planning. At 2:17 a.m., headlights swept across the front windows. We both shot up. Mia grabbed my wrist. Stay behind me. My heart hammered violently as footsteps approached the door. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then a loud knock. Open the door, Ethan shouted, voice raw. Mia's eyes widened. He's unhinged. I shook my head violently. I'm not opening it. The knock turned into pounding. Open the damn door. We need to talk. I backed away, breath coming in shallow gasps. Mia stepped in front of me like a shield. Call the police, she hissed. No, I whispered. Not yet. I didn't want to escalate, not until the legal filings were in place. Open it, Ethan roared. I know you're in there. His tone sounded less like a request and more like a command, the tone of someone used to being obeyed. Mia shouted through the door. Back away, Ethan. You have no right to be here at this hour. Mia, Ethan barked. Get out of the way. This is between me and my wife. Not tonight, she snapped. A heavy silence followed. Then Ethan spoke again, quieter, darker. You've been snooping. You took things. You don't understand what you're doing. I clenched my fists. Go home, Ethan. He laughed, a hollow, unsettling sound. Home? Which one? The words sliced through me. Mia's face hardened with fury. Ethan continued, voice rising. You think you know everything? You don't. That kid... Stop talking, Mia shouted. Anything you say now can be used against you in court. No one is using anything, he yelled, slamming his palm against the door so hard the frame shook. We fix this privately, before you drag lawyers into it. I felt something inside me snap. I already did, I said loudly. Silence. Outside, the night seemed to freeze. Then Ethan exhaled sharply. You... what? I met with a lawyer, I said, voice trembling but loud enough for him to hear. They're filing tomorrow. A financial restraining order. Everything will be frozen. His breathing quickened. You went behind my back? You went behind our marriage. His fist hit the door again, harder this time. I flinched back, clutching Mia's arm. You don't know what you're doing, he growled. You're going to destroy everything. You're going to ruin me. You ruined yourself, I whispered. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of his breathing, ragged, uneven. Then he said something so quiet I almost didn't hear it. You're making a mistake. Mia squared her shoulders. And you need to leave. Now. Or I'm calling the police. A long pause, then footsteps retreating. The headlights disappeared down the street. I collapsed onto the couch, shaking uncontrollably. Mia wrapped her arms around me, holding me steady as my body finally crashed under the weight of adrenaline. He's spiraling, she whispered. Tomorrow can't come soon enough. I'm scared, I breathed. I know. But after tomorrow, he won't be able to touch anything. I nodded, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. But as exhausted as I was, sleep wouldn't come. Because Ethan's last words kept echoing. You're making a mistake. And for the first time, I wondered, what would he try next? The morning of the filing felt like the world had shifted on its axis. The sky outside was a dull gray, heavy with clouds, as if even the weather braced itself for what was coming. My hands trembled slightly as I buttoned my coat, but beneath the fear lived something steadier. Resolve. Mia drove me to the attorney's office. Neither of us said much. Words felt too small for everything boiling beneath the surface. When we arrived, Caroline was already waiting with a stack of documents, neatly arranged and ready to be submitted to the court. Once these are filed, she said calmly, your husband won't be able to move, hide, or spend any major funds. Every account connected to him will be monitored. I exhaled shakily. What happens next? Caroline offered a thin, confident smile. Then we let the court do its job. I signed the last set of papers. My name looked strange, steady, clear, almost as if it belonged to someone braver. By 9:42 a.m., the clerk stamped the documents. It was official. The restraining order was active. Ethan's financial freedom ended the moment the ink dried. We were home by noon. Mia insisted on staying with me until the server delivered the papers to Ethan. My stomach twisted every time I heard a car outside, expecting him to storm in again. But hours passed quietly. Around 4:15 p.m., Caroline called. "It's done," she said. "He was served." My breath caught. How did he react? There was a pause, just long enough to make my heart stutter. "He wasn't pleased," she said carefully. "But at this point, he can't legally contact you except through counsel. If he does, it's a violation." I hung up and stared at the wall, unable to process the mix of terror and relief washing over me. Mia squeezed my shoulder. "It's okay. He can't hurt you now." But the day wasn't done. 2 days later, everything exploded. Caroline called early in the morning. "We have a problem, and good news," she said. "Your husband tried to access a joint account after the freeze." My chest tightened. What did he do? "He attempted to withdraw $25,000. The bank declined it and notified us." I closed my eyes. Of course he did. "That attempt," Caroline continued, "is now part of the documentation. It helps your case. It shows intent to evade the order. And the problem? That wasn't his only attempt." By the time she finished explaining, my legs gave out beneath me. Ethan had not only tried to remove money, he'd tried to move assets to the woman and her child. Property, funds, even a car. All frozen, all flagged as violations. Caroline sighed. "He's digging his own grave." I felt numb. "What do we do now?" "We prepare for court," she said. "And trust me, the judge will not look kindly on him." The hearing was scheduled a week later. I wasn't ready for the moment I'd see him in person again, but it came faster than I expected. The courtroom was cold, with buzzing fluorescent lights and an air of stale seriousness. I sat beside Caroline, gripping a pen like a lifeline. Ethan entered with his attorney, but he didn't look like the confident, composed man I'd been married to. His tie was crooked, his eyes sunken, his expression tight with anger barely contained. When he saw me, something flickered in his gaze. Guilt, maybe, or fear, but mostly rage. Caroline leaned in. "Don't look at him. Look at the judge." The judge arrived moments later, a stern woman with a sharp gaze that suggested she had no patience for theatrics. Once the case was called, the hearing began. Caroline presented everything with icy precision: the bank transfers, the lease documents, the birth certificate, the pediatric bills, the text messages, the videos. When she said, "The respondent used marital funds to support a concealed second family for over 2 years," Ethan shifted uncomfortably. But the judge didn't look surprised. Ethan's attorney tried his best. Excuses, misdirection, emotional appeals, circular arguments. But none of it landed, especially not when the judge asked, "Mr. Miller, did you or did you not attempt to withdraw a large amount of money after you were served with the restraining order?" Ethan hesitated, then lied. "No, Your Honor, that must be a mistake." The bank representative, present in the courtroom, politely destroyed him within 3 sentences. Ethan sank back in his seat, face pale. I watched silently. I didn't feel vindictive. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt done. Completely done. When it was Sophie's turn to testify, subpoenaed for financial documentation, the courtroom shifted into an even colder atmosphere. Sophie stood tensely, eyes darting between Ethan and the judge. She admitted he had been supporting her and her son, admitted they met years ago, admitted Ethan paid for nearly everything. But when the judge asked, "Did you know he was married during this time?" Sophie went pale. "No," she whispered. "He told me he was separated." A gasp rippled through the room. Ethan stiffened, jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth would crack. That lie, spoken under oath, sealed his fate. The judge's ruling was swift, uncompromising, devastating. To the respondent, your prolonged deception, misuse of marital funds, concealment of assets, and violation of the financial restraining order demonstrate clear intent to deceive and manipulate. Therefore, I held my breath. The petitioner is granted full ownership of the marital home. My vision blurred. Additionally, the respondent is ordered to pay restitution for all dissipated marital assets. Caroline squeezed my arm, and due to the attempted financial evasion, sanctions will be imposed. Ethan's head dropped. And finally, the court grants the petitioner's request for full protective order. The respondent is prohibited from contacting or approaching her. I exhaled so sharply my chest hurt. It was over. Truly, completely over. Outside the courtroom, I felt the first real breath of freedom I'd taken in years. The air tasted new, sharp, clean. Mia hugged me tightly. "You did it. You really did it." "I didn't think I could," I whispered. "But you did," she said firmly. "You survived everything he tried to destroy you with." For the first time in months, maybe years, I believed her. A month later, I sold the house, packed my things, closed the door behind me, and stepped into a different life. I moved across the country, a small city near the coast, quiet and beautiful. I rented a tiny apartment overlooking the water. The mornings smelled like salt and fresh possibility. I found a new job, enrolled in new classes, started finding pieces of myself I didn't realize I'd lost. Some nights I still replayed the past, but more often I found myself dreaming of the future. The storm had passed. I hadn't just survived it, I'd walked out of it stronger than I ever imagined. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of anything.